You're sitting there in your comfortable armchair that's shaped itself to your body. You've got a nice cup of tea, or maybe a glass of whiskey or wine or beer. You've got Netflix on, you're flicking through, and you're comfortable. You're very comfortable, maybe your favourite cushion. And I think this is what happens, isn't it? That we exchange as we get older things like fun, joy, adventure, excitement for comfort. Comfort's what we end up seeking, maybe for the last 20 or 30 years of our lives. Never feeling uncomfortable, never kind of in a situation where a degree of courage is needed, or having any elements of curiosity about what might be round the corner. There's that hymn which has that famous line, "O tidings of comfort and joy." Well, I say that comfort and joy are mutually exclusive from each other, and that we end up seeking comfort over joy, over adventure, over fun. Nobody has fun anymore because we're so desperately seeking comfort. So as life goes on, it kind of degenerates into comfort. We just want to feel comfortable. We don't really want anything to disturb our sense of comfort. It's in our relationships. We want to be kind of comfortable. You know, my wife, my husband, he's like an old shoe, you know. Everything's in its place. Travel has to be done in a certain way. We kind of like to stick with the people we kind of know. The idea of breaking out of our circle and forming new relationships is too hard. It's hard work. And the word I'm going to use is moribund. We become moribund. Mori, obviously comes from the Latin for death. And bund, I guess, is bound. So bound for death. We're bound for death before we've died. And I think that everyone I know has to some extent fallen into this trap. And it's understandable, but I was walking around the cemetery the other day and I was thinking, well, these are the people who are really comfortable because they have no feelings that can be disturbed. They don't need to get themselves into a nice, comfortable position on the sofa. They don't need the comfort of some nostalgic TV program. They're just at peace. So should we become bound for death before we die? I guess it's a balance, isn't it? But think about those couples from old TV sitcoms. If you look at old British TV and American TV sitcoms and dramas from the 60s and the 70s, you'll find that most of those couples were in relationships that had in some ways died, and they were just kind of bumbling along together, always in separate beds and sometimes in separate bedrooms. In other words, it was commonly accepted that these relationships would die and that life would become an endless seeking for comfort. Think about Fawlty Towers and how Basil and Sybil used to live in those, or used to sleep in those separate little beds, and they each had their own bedside table with what they needed, you know.
Hello? Audrey, any news? Oh dear, he hasn't. Oh, I know.
Basil's constant frustration that he couldn't just sit down and relax with his newspaper. Because that's what many of us who don't run hotels, we do want to do. We want to just sit down with our, whatever the equivalent of a newspaper is now, and kind of just not get involved in anything. George and Mildred was also another sitcom where, again, separate beds. Terry and June. All of these moribund relationships, a reflection of what we expected relationships to be. Now, of course, in those days on TV, you had to show people in separate beds. It was part of the commonly accepted practice. You should not have any sexual suggestions on primetime television. And this was to do with the US morality police in the US, and of course the Mary Whitehouse thing here in the UK. But actually there was a recent poll where 35%, you'll have to check this if you're interested, 35% of people said they hated their partners. Now you might think at first, well, that's a bit strange, isn't it? I mean, why would you stay with them? Well, of course, there's 100 reasons to stay with them. There's only one reason to go, you know, because they irritate you. You can't stand them. But there are another 100 reasons why you should stay. Life is difficult on your own. Fear of loneliness. Financial issues. That the benefits kind of still outweigh the sort of punishing irritations that you get. So this kind of moribund nature of relationships still happens now. And I think there's no better example of this kind of thing than the cruise ship holiday. Now, I've got nothing against cruise ship holidays. I'm sure they're fantastic. But they're kind of adventure without adventure, aren't they? It's the high seas, but with stabilizers. It's a very good way of having 100% pure comfort and ease and convenience. It's barely leaving your home, isn't it, really? Yes, you stop off at Malta for 3 hours. Yes, you might go and see some glacier if you're doing a Nordic cruise or something. But by and large, you've got this comfortable room that you set up as you'd like it. And then it's a very short walk to the restaurant and to the man who's playing songs from the shows on the piano. It's comfort. It's not adventure. There's nothing curious about it. There isn't really much fun going on. The fun is normally contrived fun, perhaps with a little bit of crazy cabaret. But it's not coming from you. And I think that some of you, by the law of averages, have entered this phase. And it must be a kind of constant nagging thought that, is this it? Am I now death-bound? Can I get out of it in any way? Why am I so stuck? I haven't got any answers. I'm reminded of the song by The, which has that refrain, "Is this the day your life will surely change?" And how many people wake up in the morning and they think, is this the day my life will surely change? And it never is. It never is for anybody. I mean, okay, occasionally something might happen, but by and large, you can be thinking that thought every morning for 30 years. Is this the day my life will surely change? And the thing is, the potentiality for change is always with you. But, to use a very old cliche, it's always on the other side of fear, isn't it? And that fear, that membrane, is extremely tough. And you can't really justify going through it. No animal would ever put themselves purposely in the zone of fear. It also reminds me of that Terry Gilliam film, Zero Theorem, where the protagonist is waiting for a phone call for his entire working life. His working life, which is just putting in computer code, because it's set in the kind of near-distant future. He's just sort of, it's a meaningless job, kind of supplementing AI, tapping in code, but he's waiting. He's got an old-fashioned phone on the desk and he keeps it there because he's absolutely convinced through faith that the day will come when that phone rings. And we know the phone's never going to ring. I don't know whether we feel sympathy for the character because he's waiting for something to happen. And when that phone rings, he of course thinks that it's going to be a life-changing phone call. That someone's going to tell him something so profound, so wonderful, that his life is going to change. But the phone's never going to ring. So, if you want to escape a life that is moribund, then yes, you will have to do something which is courageous. And that's really hard. Of course, there may be things that you can do which are kind of still, if you like, safe, that keeps you kind of on the edge of your comfort zone, but at least you're trying. You could extend yourself just a little bit each day, couldn't you? If you've got these kind of feelings, you know, if you watch 40 Towers or Terry and June or George and Mildred and, you know, all of that stuff, and you think, bloody hell, that's a little bit like me, you know. So anyway, I'm going to spend the day drinking tea, sitting in a comfortable armchair, watching Netflix, trapped in my own kind of nightmare.